Yeah, that's right, I'm wearing a Batman sweatshirt to talk about a Marvel movie. Don't even at me. Or do, I'm at BenderWaffles. On pretty much everything. Marvel has been pretty good about taking an idea from the comics that really shouldn't work on the big screen and somehow turning it into a rousing success. Oh, what's that? We can't take Guardians of the Galaxy and make it into a successful Hollywood movie? Hold my beer. But before we get to that team, we're going to talk about the first time that Marvel did it with the mightiest Avenger. Today, the road to Infinity War continues on, bringing us to Thor. If you want to see the rest of this series of reviews, be sure to click the subscribe button and the little bell to join the notification squad and be alerted when I upload the next video. So I feel like it's not going to be shocking for me to say that the Thor films are pretty hit or miss. The first film is fine, while the second one is a little worse. But then the third film came around and completely blew us away and is actually one of the better films in the MCU. So you know, a little bit of variation in quality there. But why is that? The original Thor had the burden of being an origin film, one that just so happened to be for a character that a lot of general audiences may not have known much about. So really, the film already had an uphill battle to deal with, and the writing and directing really didn't help. I get that the characters here are supposed to speak with sort of an old English style, much like they did in the comics, but the problems with dialogue go beyond just the Asgardians. Jane Foster is a pretty cookie cutter character, who doesn't really have any sort of believable motivation beyond her work, which is pretty cliched. So her character was already pretty hard to deal with, but pile on the lack of chemistry with star Chris Hemsworth, and she comes out as just a bit of a mess. Like, I seriously did not, at any point watching these films, buy them as a couple who actually gave a shit about each other. And that is a problem with both the actors, who again didn't have much chemistry, and with the way that the characters are written, which is clunky and robotic at best. But perhaps the worst character in the history of the MCU has got to be Darcy, Jane's intern. Look, I like Kat Dennings fine enough, but this character is just annoying. That's one thing that I'll never understand about films. Why do they have to add in an annoying character? I mean, at some point during the process of either writing them or actually filming it, they have to have realized just how grating the characters are, so why have them? But there are some aspects of the first film that are fairly redeemable. It introduced us to Loki, who winds up being one of the most three-dimensional villains in the entirety of the MCU, with some semblance of an arc, which would be properly expanded upon in the Avengers and later Thor films. Plus, the overall design of Asgard and the aesthetics in general are actually really cool to look at. It's a beautiful bit of design. And Chris Hemsworth does a pretty good job of selling the whole fish out of water idea, able to play both the powerful and confident side of the character while also being completely oblivious to the world around him. Now, the second film, Thor: The Dark World, is not a terrible movie, but it's by far the worst in the MCU. This is a film that basically doesn't bring much to the table at all. The characters somehow manage to be even more bland. The villain, Malekith, is up there with Ronan the Accuser in terms of how much he sucks as a villain, and the climax of the film, which should have easily been the most exciting part, is a dull, CGI-ridden mess that has undefined rules centered around a bunch of scientific MacGuffins that exist purely to be cool. Admittedly, the film does do a fairly good job of furthering Loki's story, so there's that. Darcy still sucks though. Then there is Thor Ragnarok, which succeeds at breaking the third film curse by not only being a pretty good film, but by being the best film in the entire trilogy. Now I ask you, how many other trilogies can say that? While the other films did a good job of adapting the acid trip that is the original Thor comics into something halfway believable, director Taika Waititi made a great decision to steer pretty hard into the strange with the third entry in the series, for one simple reason. The previous films took themselves a bit too seriously. So by playing up the jokes and bringing in a bit of the tone from the Guardians of the Galaxy films, don't worry, I'm gonna get to those movies in a couple of weeks. Waititi was able to make a film that not only did the original comics justice, but also injected some much needed fun into the franchise. But I will admit that sometimes that humor did sort of negatively affect the film. There were some scenes in this film that could have been big, dramatic character moments that were kind of ruined by somebody throwing out an ill-timed joke. But while watching the film, you can kind of shake this problem off, as the whole ordeal is just so damn fun. I also have to talk about Tessa Thompson's Valkyrie, the newcomer in this film. Thompson is simply a delight in every scene that she is in, simultaneously being able to play up the emotionally scarred and rage-filled side of her character, while also still being able to run with the lighter characters, such as the Hulk. And I can't wait to see her on screen again in Avengers Infinity War. God, I hope they don't kill her. That being said, my final rating for the original Thor is a 3 out of 5. Thor: The Dark World pulls in a 2.5 out of 5, and Thor Ragnarok sits pretty at 4 out of 5. As a trilogy, the Thor series is okay, as the greatness of the third film can only do so much to pull up the other two movies. And while they are alright, they aren't exactly high cinema and are not particularly something that you absolutely need to rush out and watch, though you might want to just so that you can fully enjoy the fun that is Thor Ragnarok. But now that you know what I think about the Thor trilogy, I want to know what you think. Be sure to leave your thoughts down in the comments below. And when you're done doing that, why not click one of the buttons over here to check out some other videos that I made. There's certainly something over there that'll catch your fancy. And if not, you can click on the little circle to subscribe and maybe something will pop up. Thanks for watching and have a good one.